What is going on, Colts fans? Welcome back to another episode of First and 56, brought to you by Sideline Sports. Rondo Griffin, Marcus Martin, your host. Anthony Gulick could not be here for this one as we are obviously relevant in the draft. It's been a few days now, so definitely dust has settled. The smoke's cleared. The hype's lowered a little bit. But Marcus, draft day came and went all 3 days. Ballard got the job done early, and then we saw those usual Ballard moves on days 2 and 3, getting those wheeling and dealing, moving up, moving down. But Marcus, ultimately 12 picks were made by the Colts. We didn't go into that draft with 12 picks, so that's obviously that's part of Ballard doing his magic. But might as well start from the top, Marcus, and obviously as a clean sweep prediction on the pre-show before the draft. But indeed, fourth overall, the Indianapolis Colts took Anthony Richardson. So obviously, on paper, he's supposed to be the franchise guy. But I mean, Marcus, now that it's real, now that we have AR5 coming to Indy, what are the thoughts and what are we expecting now?
Oh man, the thoughts. I was actually happy, to be honest with you. After, like I said, after doing some of his assessments and going back before the draft, checking out what he did in Florida. I was just kind of excited that that we drafted him. Uh, this kid has a really bright future in India. I think under Steichen. Um, I just think that he's going to bring electricity, fire. He's very passionate. I mean, if you listen to the guy talk, I mean, football is just like his life. He eats, breathes football. So I guess that's the kind of guy that Steichen's like. And like I said, I see him lighting Lucas Oils every Sunday from here on out.
Yeah, it's definitely an exciting time. And if you're myself, he's a guy where I guess kind of late in the process, I jumped on the bandwagon. Obviously, if you remember, or probably end of the season, I think I said Will Levis. End of the season, I was a Will Levis guy. You guys almost won me over on wanting CJ Stroud. I almost was able to look past my Ohio State bias, but probably a little bit before the combine, and then especially after the combine, I was full send on Team Richardson. Just like we've always said, you can teach accuracy, you can teach decision making, obviously you can teach a playbook. You can't teach that type of athleticism. And so getting that from your guy under center who's built like a linebacker, I'm here all day for that. Because I mean, essentially, I would say on paper, just from frame, that's Cam Newton. And like, obviously, I understand the end of Cam Newton's career wasn't pleasant, but go back and watch prime Cam Newton, or even when he first came into the league. That man was an absolute monster. So if Anthony Richardson can, I would say, at the minimum, replicate what Cam Newton was able to do in this league, we are going to be satisfied in Indianapolis, and we're going to obviously be set for a long time. Now, obviously, I'm not trying to put that much pressure on him again, and definitely you don't want the negative that comes with when you mention the name Cam Newton. But like you mentioned, seeing his interviews after we drafted him, and even if you look at it before it, looks like he has a really good head on his shoulders. It goes back to the Ballard thing of drafting for character, wanting that type of guy. Like you said, he just kind of lives, breathes football. And I think it's something we kind of tend to look past. I know, obviously, you hear the buzzwords of, oh, he's the first guy in the gym, last guy out, always working out, blah, blah, blah. You hear those, and it's just like you kind of think, okay, yeah, I mean, they're supposed to be like that. But if you go and look at it, there's plenty of guys where they just get there and they just maintain. So obviously, it's good to hear, like you said, it's good to hear him say the right things. Now, hopefully, we get to see him do those said things. But so, and I'm going to flip to you one more time before we get to the rest of this draft class, because it's something you mentioned on the pre-show. Like you're a season ticket holder. So you're investing a lot of money in this franchise. Obviously, you're not the one signing the players, but still, you're making a commitment to essentially be there almost every home game. Obviously it's not cheap when you see a ticket holder. So as a season ticket holder, knowing the quarterback carousel we've had, now we draft the guy number 4 is coming into the league as 20. So I mean, you could argue on paper, we should see this guy for the next 10 years. How much more exciting is that now we finally kind of see a path for having the guy under center?
I was talking to one of my friends. He's a season ticket holder also, and man, you just the excitement that's going around right now in Colts Nation is unreal. I mean, I could probably assure you once the schedule comes out, there probably won't be any tickets left. I
Oh
mean,
yeah. Oh
everybody
yeah.
to go see Anthony Richardson, and me personally, I hope he starts day one. I hope the first home game that we go to, we will see Anthony Richardson in action.
Yeah, I'm with you. And, so let's actually get into that a little bit because it's definitely been a topic of debate. We talked about it on the show. I guess now we can get more into detail now that we know who the guy is because we did sign Gardner Minshew in the offseason. And I think everyone, ourselves included, understood that obviously Minshew's not the answer. He's not the planned future guy. I think we all put it towards the fact of we just hired the Eagles coach, might as well get a quarterback who's been under him and in his case started a couple of games with the system. And if anything, it's you want somebody who already knows the playbook or knows the system or at least knows the coach's mannerisms to kind of guide that rookie. But like, let's get into it. So obviously you said you want him starting day one. I think I'm with you on that. But so let's dive deeper. Obviously, so you mentioned, the fact of that you're season holder, you put in an investment, you draft the guy number 4. But let's talk to our fans a little bit. Give me some more reasons of why he should be starting day one.
Well, I think when you draft a guy that high and the expectations are that high, the only way he's going to learn is if you got him get him under center, and more the more practice reps, the more OTAs, the more game reps, the more preseason reps, the better he's going to become. So I'm thinking as a Colts fan from the outside looking in, you get him on the practice field. I think rookie minicamp is going to start here pretty soon. I'm not sure if it's this weekend for the Colts or next weekend. Um, but just give the guy, reps, give him some practice time. And I think he's going to get better with accuracy. I think he's going to understand what Steichen wants out of his offense. He's a real intelligent guy. I mean, I've seen there was a clip on Facebook, I think a couple of days ago, where he actually broke down Steve Mariucci's offense. So now I know why he scored as high as he did on his Wonderlic test. I think it was like a 93 or 95 or something like that. So he's very intelligent as far as knowing the playbook and stuff like that. I figure once he gets the playbook down, Pat, and he gets the big understanding, and he's working out with Gardner Minshew during the offseason. He was. I don't know if he still is or not now since he's been drafted. I'm pretty sure he probably knows a little bit already what was going on in that playbook since he was working out with Gardner Minshew. So you get him in the building, get him the playbook, and with his athleticism and the way that he performs, the answer to that question is he has to play.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Like I've said, you can only learn so much from the sideline. You can only learn so much from holding a clipboard. But the best lessons you're gonna get is actively on the field. It's obviously way different identifying something standing off to the side to when you're identifying it in real motion. And even then, obviously, when you're going back and reviewing game tape, I'm sure it's way easier to review your own playing than it is to review someone else. And like you said about his head and his mindset and breaking down, it's I'm not a rumor. It was proven fact. It's like, after his draft call and he's walking on stage and meets Goodell, he's called them or they called him back. He's like, hey, can I get a playbook? So he's invested. He obviously
Right.
he wants this. And again, going back to the right head and saying the right things. I don't care if it's cliche. That's what I want to hear.
Right.
Especially when you talk about a franchise for us, in our case, where it's been a revolving quarterback door for about the last 6 seasons, 8 different quarterbacks. It's been an absolute nightmare. And then lastly, to your point of, getting him obviously accustomed with his teammates, we saw this past season when Nick Foles got forced into action. He did not look on par at all with Michael Pittman. And that's the number one guy. So like with you, I want him throwing a Pittman, throwing a Pierce. Obviously, we just drafted a rookie. We're going to get into him later. I want him throwing to those guys early. Then when it comes to game action, now mannerisms. Now I know, hey, when I'm in trouble, I could just chuck it in an area and I know you've got me. But you only get that, like you said, with reps, with repetition. You're not going to get that from the sideline. So obviously, it was like you said, I believe you're right in that rookie camp for us is this weekend. So we're going to get him in the system and we're going to see what he can do. And obviously OTA's training camp is going to be around the corner. And whether it's an open competition, whether the Colts have a plan to just start Minshew, whatever it is, hopefully he's on an expedited path and he's starting. Like you said, I want him starting day one as well. But obviously he's got to be ready. But lastly, what I'll say is that we play in the worst division of football. So if anything, this is the best time and the best chance to essentially force him, because our division is obviously only going to get better.
Right.
We saw how the Texans are essentially full reset their franchise, getting their quarterback and getting a very good pass rusher. So, the Texans are coming. The Jaguars are already on top. The Titans, okay, maybe they're toward the rebuild, but they've still got some pieces over. They can still win some games. But So the time is absolutely now to kind of get him ready, because again, maybe we're not competing in year one, but year two, and especially year three, when the Jaguars are going to be set, the Texans are probably going to be reset by then. The Titans, again, that's the question mark, but it's going to be go time at that point. And like you said, I want him with the reps. I want him ready now. And then we're looking forward. And then we can start dreaming and hypothesizing about Super Bowls.
Right. My expectations for this season right now is not really, I love to get wins. I love to stack wins. But my expectations now is, like you said, get him the reps, get him familiar with his offense, get familiar with his receivers. And like you said, year 2, year 3, and so on, then, we'll start seeing him progress and get better and better and better. You know what I'm saying? Then, like you said, we can start talking Super Bowls. But this year, I just want to get him on the field, get him his experience. If we win games, I'm happy. If we lose games, it is what it is, because my expectations are not as that high this year as they was last year. So, but season ticket holder, I want to see the guy play.
Right.
And I want to see him electrify Lucas Oil Stadium. So,
exactly. Like I said, 100%. I'm with you. And at least for me, not season ticket holder, but just obviously a fan, I'm tired of the turmoil. I'm tired of losing. Again, I understand. We're probably not Super Bowl conversation next season, this season, maybe even not even next season. But let's get back to competitive football. Let's get back to this thing moving into a well-oiled machine. I'm ready for it. I'm hyped, and obviously they brought that. But so that was the number one guy. Let's jump over to round 2, where, as I've said, it's round 2, round 3, day 2 is Ballard's money round. And as advertised, trading down as well, which real quick, shout out to TBQ Sports and Smoking with Johnny B, who allowed me the pleasure to jump on their live streams and react in live time to the draft. Because it was funny enough coming around too. We started off picking, we had the 4th pick on that round. And I was on the stream and they were saying, okay, Ron, what are you looking for here? And I was like, get back to me in 20 minutes because he's going to trade. And sure enough, there he goes.
Sure enough,
comes up again. Like, what do you think now? I'm like, no, get back to me again. He's going to trade. Sure enough, here we go. But he trades down and still gets the guy, which is one thing I absolutely love about Ballard. He is an absolute magician when it comes to the draft. Gets the guy, gets my guy. That is round 2, Julius Brents, the corner from Kansas State. I talked to you guys' ears enough about him off the air, not so much on the air. But Marcus, again, now we've got him. Again, another guy at an important hole. It's just an important piece of this team, replacing Gilmore. But Julius Brent is 6'3", corner, built like those new ones of the same mold as Sauce Gardner, Tariq Woolen. Speed, wingspan, and obviously, again, as I mentioned, having that hole at CB1 with Gilmore gone. So, Marcus, let's talk about round 2. Julius Brents filling a nice hole in the secondary.
The hometown guy. Oh, yeah, I was happy about that, man. First person I thought about was you when they drafted. I said, man, we was talking about this like a couple of weeks before the draft, and you said it too. You're like, I would like to have that guy. Very athletic, tall. His best coverage is man-to-man. Not really very good with the zone scheme, but press coverage is his strength. I was real excited about him. I think he's going to do well. The sky is the limit. I really loved his phone call that he got from Chris Ballard. Oh man, that lit a fire under me right there, man. I was like, man, he said, you know what? You would not regret this. You would not regret this. So I'm taking that to the heart. So yeah, excellent pick. Love that pick.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, loved it. And again, especially because like last year, we didn't talk about it on stream much, but I was big on Tariq Woolen. I said that guy was a hidden gem. Maybe I should have been louder about it. I'm not saying that I would have done much, but I was right, obviously. And when you're right, you gotta take shots. You gotta boast about it. And like I said, I feel like I'm gonna be right on this guy as well. Again, like you mentioned, he's a big corner, 6'3". He's that new mold of corner. Corners aren't supposed to be that big, but he's fast. He got the wingspan. Like you said, the best part, man is his forte. And just in the league in general, we're seeing the rise in the age of receivers, and we just had a lockdown guy, and it's been a while since we've really had that lockdown guy on the outside. And as I said, after quarterback, corner is definitely the hardest transition going from college to the pros. But I think Julius is going to be set up better to succeed than a former pick that we had, Rock Ya-Sin, who definitely struggled coming out the gate. Later on in his career, he picked it up and also moved to the Raiders. And now I believe he's actually on his way to Baltimore as we speak right now. Yep. But I think you're going to get better immediate success from Julius Brents. Obviously, the system is better placed. I think with Gus Bradley's defensive scheme, it's going to work out better for him. And again, just with the way that our team has kind of more so improved the pass rush compared to when we brought in Rock Ya-Sin, I don't think he's going to be asked to do as much. Right. A lot of Gilmore's plays when he made them, like, yes, he kind of had to, but it wasn't necessarily a case of because other pieces failed. The ball just happened to be out. And again, I am not saying that he's obviously going to come out and be a day one Gilmore or Reavers or anything like that. But again, it's just like Anthony Richardson. It's getting him the reps, getting him the time. And again, like I said, year 2, year 3, when the rest of this team is moving, now we're set. Because one more thing, talking about the youth of this team, like Marcus, there is nobody on the roster over the age of 29. This is an absolute youth movement right now at the important positions. Or I'm sorry, I believe Buckner might be either 30 or 29. But point being is that, the entire offense is young. Majority of the defense is young. So this is a nucleus here. And so now we've seen how Ballard doesn't necessarily like to attack free agency. So now we're seeing Ballard kind of in his own zone of creating this young nucleus, and obviously Julius Brents is going to be a part of that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Ballard really did his thing, man. I was impressed at every selection. Even if, I was kind of frustrated for a second when he was trading down those couple times. I was like, here we go again. But then, the man traded down 2 times and still end up getting the guy that he targets. So, big shout out to Chris Ballard. Man, this is probably one of the best drafts I've seen since his tenure in Indianapolis. And I think this draft right here, in a few years, I think every Colts fan is going to be happy about.
Yeah, and that's a thing with Ballard too, and we've kind of learned it. Because if you look, like you said, you mentioned this might be one of his best draft classes, which is saying something. Because you go look at his past, he really doesn't miss.
Right.
Like and when he does miss, like his misses are on day 3, which we've talked about. You miss on day 3, it's like it's a no harm, no foul thing. Right. Those guys I would say in your best case scenario, you're thinking they're gonna round at the bottom of your roster successful special teamers. Obviously, and then you get lucky, like in our case, Zaire Franklin, 7th round pick, now is a starting linebacker for us, tackling machine. Right. But for the most part, looking at Ballard, like the draft is his absolute forte, and I was speaking it down to being his forte. So let's move down to round 3, where I'm not gonna lie, I was actually kind of tuned out by this point. The Kings game was on, and I got my 2 guys. I was like, honestly, Ballard could do whatever. I'm good. But even then, I get the update. I believe it was actually Gulick texted us in the group chat. But round 3, pick 79, Josh Downs, the receiver from North Carolina, small, shifty receiver. And now I believe I said on the stream, I was like, I'm not necessarily looking for a receiver, but if one falls in your lap, I'm definitely not going to hate the move at all, because why not? And on paper, you get a sneaky good one late in the draft. Like, I'll be honest, I don't know much about Josh Downs. Like, in terms of the research that I did, I probably stopped a little bit before you get to him. But from what I've heard from other people, he's the absolute slot receiver you want. That's the hole we have on the team. So I would say ideally, if your young trio of Pittman, Pierce, and now you insert in Downs, So Marcus, let's talk about this kid from North Carolina.
Very electric, very electric. They are comparing him to the one and only number 13, T.Y. Hilton. Um, Reggie Wayne said it himself. He went to his pro day and he went to Chris Ballard after the pro day and said, "Man, we have to get this guy." Reggie Wayne himself, come right out of his mouth, said that he is the best receiver in this draft. This kid scores nothing but touchdowns. I went back and I took a look at some of his tape in North Carolina, and he's just, I mean, he's a real shifty, speedy receiver in the slot. He knows how to get open in the zones. Um, if you man him up, he's going to burn you deep. I can't wait to see this kid. I can't wait to see this kid. I mean, like I said, as much as Reggie Wayne raved about this kid, I know for a fact that if Reggie wanted this kid, he's got to be special. So I can't wait.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what's the old adage, right? Game recognized game. So if a Hall of Fame receiver is pounding the door to get you, saying we absolutely need this guy, I think you listen to the Hall of Fame receiver and you go get that guy. So obviously, if 87 is saying that, I've got to be excited about it. Like you mentioned, if the T.Y. Hilton, if that's a comparison, give me that all day.
Yes,
absolutely. Obviously, they're built the same, both about 5'9", one like a $180 weight, but again, like I said, shifty, the speed. Look at his stats. He's a punt returner as well. So you got the special teams mix. But what I said though with the Isaiah McKenzie pickup, I had said that more than anything, Isaiah McKenzie is a special teams guy. So it definitely didn't rule out the fact that they could easily go get a receiver. As we've mentioned on the show, you got 1-2 set. Doolin is really a 4.
right.
So you've got that kind of hole at 3. So you insert in Downs, you go Pierce, Pittman, Downs, McKenzie, Doolin. Now it's a fight for 6, but at that point you kind of don't care. If that's your top 5, again, as I've said, where we understand we're not winning right now, but we're moving towards something. But again, give me that youth movement. And like I said, I've got Pittman on the outside. I've got Pierce as a down the field burner. Need a shifty slot guy. And there he is. So like we're probably going to say this over and over again. I think obviously Ballard nailed it, hit it out of the park. But so let's just keep moving. We're moving to day 3, starts at round 4, where we had all said, we like, you got to get an O-line guy. Now, might not have been like the guard that I have wanted per se, but you still got an O-line guy. You still got a nice guy, a guy who probably shouldn't have even been there. But a Blake Freeland, offensive tackle out of BYU, big body guy. He is a tackle, but he can move. But I mean, Marcus, it's round 4, and we talked about this O-line. You get a nice piece who you could mix him into things, but he should make the roster.
Oh yeah, for sure. I actually think that he might even really give a good competition at that guard position that we're lacking right now. They said he can move, he can play almost every position on the line, right tackle, left tackle, mainly I think at BYU, I think he played mostly left tackle. But they said he can, they can move him, at any position on the line. And I think the reason why they drafted him was for the competition at that guard spot. And like Chris Ballard said, a lot of the players that they did draft is all competition. Everybody's coming in, nobody's guaranteed a starting spot. I'm bringing in these guys, bringing in these young guys, and we're going to see what happens, come training camp and OTAs. So actually kind of looking forward to the battles, man. I mean, I've never been to training camp before, but I think I'm gonna go this year so I can check out some things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. I'm with you on that. Obviously, offensive line, we saw the struggles last season. And I think, at least for myself, I'm not gonna speak for you guys, but for myself, I chop it up partially to it was just a bad mix. Because I firmly believe that I don't think Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly, and Braden Smith, I don't think those 2 are ever gonna play that poorly ever again. Bernard Raymond obviously struggled early, picked it up late. I'll give him a rookie pass. Honestly, it's fair. Obviously, you're jumping into a league where everyone is athletic. Everyone is the best of the best. And you've got to be on it. And you're playing the toughest position on the offensive line. So you insert Blake Freeland, like you said, you can move him around. So you got me thinking, and I think what might be a real possibility now is that, remember, Braden Smith was drafted as a guard.
Right.
He moved the tackle out of need and obviously wanted to play. Maybe you shift him back into the inside and this guy becomes your right tackle, and boom, now like I said, we're back on that youth movement. Because I think the big core thing we have to remember about back when our offensive line was rolling on all cylinders, and what was that? It was you had symmetry. It was
Yeah.
Costanzo, Nelson, Kelly, Glowinski, Smith, and
Mm-hmm.
that was the five. It never changed. You brought guys in for extra packages, but that was the five no matter what. O-line is that one position group where you can't have a lot of subs and keep that same symmetry, that same line of protection. Now,
Right.
obviously, injuries happen. Like I get that it's a rough sport, but once you get a consistent five, that's when you see the success. You've seen Philly do that. You've seen Dallas do that. Even KC to a degree have done that. All the successful teams, when they're winning, it's because that front five is consistent. Hey, let's go to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's front five, when they were winning rings, were consistent. This past season, where Brady looked terrible, I believe Wirfs missed majority of the season, not all the season. I believe he lost Jensen, which was a center. I believe he lost his right guard also. It absolutely starts to destroy you once those guys start going down, or once you have rotations going there. And I think that's partially what also hurt Raymond early in the season, because like he would start and then he wouldn't start, and then you brought him in for some series, and then you had him splitting series, and it just messed up everything. So hopefully Freeland can come in and be that missing piece. I said it's right guard. I'm gonna trust Football Minds. Maybe they've got a better idea than I do, but again, you got to figure that out and protect our franchise guy back there.
Absolutely. And what it comes down to is what we talked about earlier, because it's come down to reps. Raymond, the more reps he got later in the season, the better he became. I think his Pro Football Focus went from 71 to almost a 70, now almost an 80% by the end of the season, because of the reps and how he got better in pass protection. So it probably still needs to get a little stronger. I hope this offseason he hits the weight room and bulk up a little bit more. That way he can be a little bit more better in the run game. But so far so good. And like I said, if we can get continuity on that offensive line, and we can get a settled five guys that's there all the time, I think we might shock some people this year. Like I said, my expectations are not very high, but we might shock some people this year.
Yeah, I definitely, I'm with you on that. We could for sure shock some people. And again, I think just because our division is is very lackluster, and I'm not saying we will, but it's within the realm of possibility that we can sneak into the playoffs. We could sneak a division title. Now, obviously, some things are gonna just have to hit,
Right.
but the pieces are there. The puzzle is there. And again, I'm not trying to expedite or fast track us, but we are on the right path to getting back to that dominance that we're used to. So let's keep moving. Here comes the first homework assignment of this draft class. But round 4, defensive tackle from Northwestern, Adetomwa Adebawar. And I'm pretty sure I still butchered that. But
you do it better than me.
big defensive tackle out of Northwestern. Again, which has been just kind of the trait of Ballard. Now, he's a big boy. He's 6'8", but he can move. One of the faster defensive tackles from the combine, and just looking at his numbers, you look at his athleticism stats. He's a big guy on the inside who can obviously spell rotations for Big Grove in 99.
And he's also fast. He's also really fast. A couple of teams had him actually a first round draft pick. I know there was probably other players that fell in their lap that that they had to just go ahead and get him, and that's probably why he slipped so far down in the draft. But a lot of boards, they had him up there as far as one of the top defensive tackles in college. I'm very excited for this guy. I'm not sure what his role is going to be. A rotational guy, I'm assuming. And he may even give little Big Grover Stewart a little run in competition in training camp. So real excited about him too. I think overall draft grade on him, I think it was a B+. So yeah, I like this guy.
Yeah, Ballard's MO when it's come to just team building, he always says it starts within the trenches. So just personally, even if I don't do any study on the guy, if you play in the trenches and Ballard picks you, just by default, I have to look at you closer and obviously kind of have my keen eye on it. And like you said, it's an important position because we got to remember, Buck doesn't play all the snaps. Big Grove, they don't play all the snaps. So it's absolutely important having a backup, having a guy who can spell them, and yet you don't lose that pressure. You don't lose that consistency. And like you mentioned the speed. I'm looking at it like this man ran a 4.49.
Yeah.
Like those are receivers. That's receiver speed. That's corner speed. Granted, it's I would say on the slower side for a receiver, but as a defensive tackle, that that's fast. And again, that's faster than most quarterbacks. Most quarterbacks aren't running the 4.5 or 4.49. So
Right.
he can absolutely move. Grant's come from the inside, but like I said, Ballard's big on the trenches. You play in the trenches and Ballard takes you. That tells me something. So you've obviously got something good, and we're gonna keep moving. So I'm gonna combine a little bit of these round 5 guys because we are kind of going on a little bit. I think so. Starting off round 5, take Darius Rush, the corner out of South Carolina. I know a lot of people to say about him. Daniel Scott, safety from California. Will Mallory, the tight end out of Miami. Then Evan Hall, the running back out of Northwestern. So, Marcus, of those 4 guys, anyone you want to highlight or talk about specifically?
Evan Hall. Man, that he kind of reminded me of Darren Sproles when he was with the Chargers. I think they're going to have a real big role for him in the offense, mainly at probably receiver. Noah Steichen, that's how he's like to, balance out the running backs, and so I think he's going to have a huge role with the team.
Yeah, and I like that one, obviously. And again, like we said, you come on day 3. It's kind of almost not. I don't want to say like the picks don't matter, but it's where you take your dart throws, your shots or whatever. In our case, I said it. I wasn't on a stream, but I think I was texting people that we took a running back, and I was just like, I don't mind the pick at all because we normally carry 4 running backs.
Right.
As of presently, still we only had 3 on the roster, would be JT, Zach Moss, and Deion Jackson. So by default, you pencil him in on the roster. He's not going to be asked to do much. Essentially, I would say special teams. And again, like you said, it's all about when you pick these bottom roster guys, it's filling out the roster, but it's those practice reps. In his case, maybe you use him to simulate other teams' players. When it comes to practicing, and obviously, ultimately, he's accomplishing his dream, getting drafted to the league. Is obviously what he's been desiring. But like I said, I don't hate the pick. It's really one of those no harm, no foul picks. So you went running back. I'll go the other side of the ball. And I'm going to talk Darius Rush, corner out of South Carolina. Because, again, obviously I definitely did a lot of research when it came to the secondary. He had no business being there round 5. Absolutely no business being there. I know most had him graded round 2, round 3. So to get him 2 rounds later, and again, we're talking our corner room, our secondary room, it's a position where we needed 2. And I think we might have all said it on the pre-draft show that you want to for sure get 2 corners. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Julius, Brent's in second round, you expected him to start. But, Darius Rush, that's a sneaky guy who, obviously right now you pencil him in as CB4, maybe CB5 under Dallas Flowers. But, similar to Marvell Tell, he's a sneaky guy who might just move his way up the depth chart and even be the 2 to Julius's number 1.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that myself as you were sitting there explaining. This guy wasn't even supposed to be that low at the bottom, and I think honestly he'd be the steal of the draft.
Yeah, I'm with you. And like I said, again, day 3, round 5. If you find a starter there, it's a win. Heck, if you just find a capable special teamer, it's typically a win. You're never expecting those guys to blossom into stars. And by all means, I'm not saying he's going to be this hidden star or anything, but obviously, if he rounds into this team and is a very good rotational piece, even rounds into a starter, it's an absolute win. It's an absolute hit by Ballard. And like we've said, he doesn't miss much from rounds 1 through 7. If you were to count you could probably count on one hand the number of misses Ballard has had in his tenure of being Colts GM. But so let's finish off this draft with round 6 and 7. Round 6, go Titus Leo, the edge out of Wagner. Round 7, Jalen Jones, a corner from Texas A&M. And then finishing off Jake Witt, offensive tackle out of North Michigan. Marcus, I'll put it. I mean, if you've got anything on any of these guys, anyone you want to highlight, by all means, have at it.
I don't have anything on these guys. Really didn't do a whole bunch of research on them. So I'm not real quite sure how these guys are. I mean, they're in a position where it's either make the team or make the practice squad. So I mean, I'm not real sure what their role is going to be. So, but I'm pretty sure, like you said earlier, if Ballard drafted them, I'm just going to go with the GM and see where the dominoes fall.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I guess what I'll highlight because I knew a little bit. So Jake Witt, he's offensive tech out of Northern Michigan. He's just his path of where he came from to getting to the draft is just very interesting because he started off playing in an 8-man league,
Mm,
and he was a receiver. Transfers colleges, moves to tight end. He only played offensive line this past year.
mm,
So if anything, he's obviously athletic. Ballard loves his athletic guys. So he's going to probably remind you a little bit of a Danny Pinter. Remember, Danny Pinter was a tight end for most of his college career before
right.
transitioning to the line. So at least with Jake Witt, he's probably going to be like a swing tackle type of guy. Definitely, play different positions, similar to Danny Pinter. But it definitely, like I said, it's a trait of Ballard of finding these athletic guys towards the back end. Because like I've said, when you're drafting on day 3, more often than anything, you are drafting your special teams room. So just that alone, he's got the athleticism. I think all these guys have obviously in top and the bottom have a strong chance to make the roster. I think he's a guy who can go very similar to a Danny Pinter and maybe even similar to my guy like EJ Speed, where you just see him on special teams and he just kind of slowly works his way up the depth chart.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you.
Yep. So that is our draft class for this year. That's 12 guys Ballard selected over the course of the weekend. We're not going to get into the undrafted guys. We're going to save that for next show. But real quick, Marcus, before we end this off, easy question, maybe a little hard one. We'll see. So every class has them. Every team has them, whether you like it or not. But one of these guys is going to boom, and one of these guys might ultimately be a bust. Now, so for this one, we're going to exclude Jake Witt since he was the last person we took, and we're going to exclude Anthony Richardson since he was the first person we took. But so, Marcus, for this draft class, and I guess we'll start negative, who's going to be the bust? Who do you think is going to flame out, just not work, or maybe not even make the roster?
Oh man, I would probably say um, Daniel Scott. Not real too sure what his role is going to be on the team. Like we got enough good young safeties right now. I think they just more plug him in special teams if he even makes the roster. I'd say Daniel Scott.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. Obviously, you take like we're set at the starters with Blackman, and then obviously we drafted Nick Cross last year. So you're thinking of him, he's going to come and be a backup. He's got to have to work to make the roster. I'm with you on that of what exactly is his role going to be. How does he make the final roster? But just keep it different. I'm going to go Will Mallory, tight end out of Miami, just because like when we selected him again, I was like it's round 5, but I sided it a little bit just because I was just like, was that really necessary? Because technically, you're gonna get a tight end back in Drew Ogletree, who obviously
Mm-hmm.
missed all of his rookie year. So it's a little weird. I mean, now granted, I've been long said that I think the Mo Ali project is over. I don't think I don't think he can peak anymore. I think he reached his peak
Right.
and he was decent, but just not good enough. Not for what we're trying to build here. But I still think Will Mallory's gonna be fighting an uphill battle. See, mostly just because he's basically a poor man's Jelani Woods.
Right.
He's the athletic type of tight end. He can move, but he's not necessarily known for his block. He's more of a receiving guy. And if from what they were saying last year at training camp, they were saying that Drew Ogletree was absolutely killing it. So if Ogletree, Granson, and Woods are the 3, again, we very often don't carry 4 tight ends much on the roster. So I think Will Mallory might have a tough time making that final 53.
And I agree with you. I definitely agree with you. He could, definitely be one of them. I kind of somewhat like that pick a little bit because
Mm-hmm.
that gives. I mean, even though we got Ogletree and then we got Granson and then Jelani Woods, I mean, we do need a solid blocking tight end, and I think that Mallard probably can give us that blocking tight end that we missed
Jack
when
Doyle.
Jack Doyle retired. So yeah, so I don't know about bust. I think more of the blocking Jack Doyle type
Mhm.
of tight end that we've been missing all of these years. So, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely fair. So obviously, we're gonna end this off on a positive note. So, Marcus, who's the boom out of this class?
Ah, man, I'm going to say two guys, and I'm going to say Anthony Richardson for one, and then I'm going to say Brent. Um, definitely, I think he's definitely going to strive.
All right, obviously,
Julius Brent. Julius
yeah,
Brent.
I'm with you on that. So just to keep it different, I'll go round lower. I'm gonna go Josh Downs, just because again, it's just like I wasn't looking for a receiver, but where you got him and where our team is, I think he's the absolute perfect complement to Pittman and Pierce. He's gonna be a great target for Richardson in the future. And again, we've been missing that shifty guy on the inside. That's what he's traded to be. So I think he's gonna. Again, I think we're expecting Richardson to be great, and you can even argue we're expecting Brent to be great because he was round two. So I think Downs is definitely gonna win some fans over, and yeah, I'll say it, he's gonna bring some pride back to that number one jersey.
Oh yeah, for sure. Definitely for sure.
100%. But yeah, so we're gonna end this one off here. Obviously, once again, Gulick couldn't be here for this one. Duty calls, work calls, we get it. But if you guys are not already, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel of Sideline Sports. You can catch all of our live streams there, as well as anything that Sideline Sports put out. All other sports, even some other teams with special coverage. We had guys physically there in Kansas City for the draft. They did phenomenal work. Got to talk to a lot of prospects and even some coaches. So definitely check out the YouTube channel. Like I said, you can catch us there, as well as catch all of our colleagues over on the Sideline Sports team. Make sure you're following us on Twitter at First56. Follow Sideline Sports on Twitter at Sideline Sport, the number one. You definitely know where to get your co-host, myself, Marcus, and Gula. Make sure you're following us as well. Draft day's come and gone. Season's on the way. We've got some giveaways ready for you guys. I'm not spoiling what we've got, but we've been talking about it off the air, and we've got some nice stuff. You guys are going to definitely enjoy that. But as for on behalf of myself, Marcus Gulick, who cannot be here, Sideline Sports as an organization, this has been 156 as a team. We are signing out. We will catch you guys on the next one.